cultural transformation. AFA believes that all men and women, whether in private or public, should be free to exercise their faith without hindrance from the government.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network for this Tuesday, April the 30th, 2024. We thank you for listening to AFR. Joining me in studio is Wesley Wildman. Good morning, Wesley.
Good morning. Before we get going into the news, I got two things, but I know you got to keep.
Let me introduce the panel,
right.
the distinguished panel. Then we'll get introduced.
All right.
They get upset.
That's right.
Chris Woodward. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. I'm just honored to have distinguished mentioned before
Well,
me. Other people have used different terms.
I use that term lightly, I admit.
And cautiously.
Cautiously and lightly.
I'm distinguished.
All right, Ray Pritchard. Good morning, Brother Ray.
Good morning, Tim. I'm feeling very extinguished this morning. So,
Yeah, what are you day what of what now?
day 95 of 180 and day 15 of 28 days of radiation, and I had one last night and then one this morning. So there's a glow behind me. That's giving off the radiation behind my back here. You know.
Well,
So,
for those
watching.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Ray is being treated for prostate.
That's right, prostate cancer. Yeah.
Prostate cancer, so that your regimen of, are you doing chemo or just radiation or both?
Radiation and this hormone treatment. So I'm almost exactly at the halfway mark, and it feels like we just started yesterday. So we're zipping right along. Tim.
Now, does that mean? I'm sorry to get personal here, and I know I'm violating HIPAA laws by asking
It's
you this.
okay.
Do you have to drive to the clinic every day, or
Every single morning. And Marlene
Monday through Friday, or 7 days a week?
Monday through Friday. So
Okay.
not on Saturday, Sunday. Marlene went with me this morning, and
How long is that? How drive?
Oh, it's not very far. It's about a 20-minute drive from here to where I got to the University of Kansas Medical Center.
Okay.
Here in Kansas City.
So you just have a standing appointment Monday through Friday. They're expecting you.
8:15 in the morning.
What are they doing there?
Well, they have all these machines, Tim, and they're multi-million-dollar machines, right? And they got a bunch of them. Here's the thing: they keep them going. They keep those radiation machines going from 7:30 in the morning till 6 at night. And as I'm going in, somebody else is walking out, having just been treated. And as I'm walking out, the next guy's walking in. I mean, you're
just a number.
I'm just a number. I'm just a number. Hey, I'm happy. I'm happy.
Happy just to be a number.
Don't pay any attention to me. Just give me the radiation and let's keep moving. You know.
But I mean, do you have to go? Do you have to go in like a tube or a room or?
You go in a special room. It's all sealed off because they're using so much radiation on you, and you go there and let's just say it delicately. Anybody who's had this treatment knows what I mean. You soon lose all modesty. It just goes out the door. They just turn on the machine and zip, 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 zip.
Okay.
And about 4 or 5 minutes later, you're done. I haven't felt anything the whole time. Yeah.
As far as the treatment goes, right? But what about the side effects?
Fatigue. Unbelievable amount of fatigue. I wake up in the morning, Wesley, and I feel like I haven't slept at all. Have to take a nap in the afternoon, and I've learned, again, cancer patients know what this is about. You can't fight it. People say power your way through it. There's no powering your way through this.
Yeah.
Right. It's a real physical effect.
Yeah, it is.
On your body. Now, you of course, you're a biking enthusiast. Has that affected that at all, or?
I bike all the time in my memory.
Okay.
I'm doing mental biking all the time.
Okay, but you don't have the energy to bike.
Not much. I bike a little bit. I'm walking, trying to get in 10,000 steps a day.
I got you.
Yeah.
Well, just go out in the front yard and start walking them down the street?
Pretty much. I have a Fitbit, and I've got a Peloton app, and and it counts my steps.
All right, well, let me ask folks to continue to pray for Brother Ray as he gets treated here for this prostate cancer and has 100% complete and full healing.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
Of the cancer. All right, we have a lot to talk about today. Frank Gaffney will be with us at the bottom of the hour from Securing America Radio, heard each evening on American Family Radio. Chris, what is going to be our topic with Frank?
Oh, it's going to be an upcoming gathering of the World Health Organization. They have, we've been covering this for months now, and we'll continue to do so on AFN.net. There is discussion about possibly taking over national sovereignty issues on things involving health policies. So, God forbid, there's another COVID-19 type thing. The WHO would have the say over that. The WHO meaning the World Health Organization, not the band.
Yes.
The World Health Organization
news.
would have say over what countries, including ours, should do. There's going to be a big gathering and a vote on this issue. Frank is one of those people out there saying this amounts to a treaty. Our Senate should be able to weigh in, and we should tell our senators to vote no on this.
He's an expert, and so he'll be able to be on during that time.
We have a lot of things I can shamelessly plug from AFN.
Michelle Bachmann, our own Sandy Rios, and others have been shouting from the rooftop about this situation, and so Frank Gaffney will be joining us at the bottom of the hour.
That's right. Oh, we got two events I want to let our audience know about before we go to the news.
Okay,
if that's
go.
okay. We've got AFA at the Ark. AFA at the Ark, October 31st through November 2nd, and you can go register your family there. Also,
what is that?
Well, it is our time where a couple of the staff members and a few of the leadership, myself and Tony Vitaglione and his family and my family, we're taking 200 of our listeners and our supporters, after, assuming they register, taking 200 of them to the Creation Museum on Thursday, to the Ark Encounter on Friday, and in both cases, we'll tour it together. We'll get the fellowship. We'll eat lunch together. We have several speakers in the evenings on both nights, and so it'll be a wonderful
What about
opportunity.
Ken? You said Ken Ham's going to be there?
Ken Ham will not be there this year. His number 2 will be there, and she will speak on his behalf for us at a private lunching.
Will she speak in an
Friday.
Australian accent, or
actually, she will. I'm pretty confident
really?
she will. Yeah.
Okay, but anyway, that is a so if you want to go to the Ark and the Creation Museum,
Let me back up. I've heard her talk before. I don't think it's Australian, but she has an accent.
Okay, okay.
But I guess they all do, right?
Says the man from Mississippi.
Mississippi, right?
Okay. So October 31 through November 3rd. So how can I find out more information about this time?
October 31st through November 2nd, and you can find out at afa.net/events, afa.net/events. Lastly, we have Men of Honor coming up this summer. We're looking forward to it. It's a summer program that AFA has hosted and organized and coordinated over the last 5 summers, where we offer a discipleship program for young men who do not have a godly influence, a manly influence in their life. Some don't have dads. Some do have dads in their life but are absent. And so Men of Honor this summer, you can find out more by going to afa.net/events. It begins the first Tuesday in June, and it ends the first Tuesday in July.
Now that is particularly for people within a driving distance of our headquarters here.
That's right. Usually, because it's hosted on at our headquarters in Tupelo, Mississippi, usually we get young men, about 30 to 40 young men within about a 30-minute drive. Occasionally, we'll have 2 or 3 young men over the last couple of years that will drive up to an hour.
Now you developed a curriculum that people can use across the country, right?
There's a curriculum for this, so if you're not able to be a part of the local Men of Honors at our headquarters this summer, we have laid it out into detail, the curriculum, and you can find that at our resource center. And Chris will help me in the next few minutes. I'll get you the link, and we can get that up. We can
On
get that
our
posted.
I can do
Because the
that.
curriculum is being used in at least a dozen churches that I'm aware of. I say churches. Some are just communities where godly men are taking up the curriculum and they're putting Men of Honor into practice there. You learn the Word of God. You learn a skill. Each time you go, you learn a skill, whether that's yard maintenance, whether that's car maintenance, whether that's etiquette class,
How to use a firearm.
how to use firearm safety. Those are things that are covered in the class. So Bible, skill time, pizza and fellowship, and there's a very detailed curriculum that I'm going to give to Chris, and you can begin a Men of Honor in your area.
And for
just as others have
typically,
to
what
learn.
age? Are this for young men?
Ages 7 to 17.
7 to 17. Okay,
Mhm.
and it's designed really to be a summer program, right?
That's right. So please go register if you live within within driving distance. Oh, I say within driving, within 30, 45 minutes of Tupelo, Mississippi. We love to host your young son or your grandson here at our headquarters the first week in June. It ends the last week or the first week, first Tuesday in July, and all the details and more you can find at afa.net/events.
afa.net/events. You got any more community announcements you need to make?
Actually,
Huh?
the popcorn machine's broke.
What?
No, I'm just kidding. He said, wait.
Well, I already got one serving right
know,
here.
I'm-
You tell
Red
me
alert. Red alert.
That is totally
Do
kidding.
not-
Don't,
There are
Whatever.
certain things you can't say on the
Yeah,
radio, and that's
you know,
one of them.
I find most things to be funny, but
I saw your face. You
you
said
don't
that
tell me
is
my
not
popcorn machine's broke. In the middle. That's just not.
community announcement. No joking.
Yeah.
Makes your heart skip a
You're
beat.
going to get replaced by Riley tomorrow.
That's right.
And we're not talking John Riley.
No.
All right.
my sister.
So anyway, we are ready to move on to the news, Chris.
All right. At least 4 law officers are dead, several others wounded. After serving a warrant for a felon yesterday, he was wanted for possessing a firearm. The officers, some of them were U.S. Marshals, went to the facility that he was residing at in Charlotte to serve him a warrant over this situation. When he and some others returned fire, and again, at least 4 law officers are dead, several others wounded. Terrible situation. You mentioned praying for Ray a minute ago. We need to pray for the city of Charlotte.
What do you know? What do you want to happen? So these were U.S. Marshals,
Mhm.
weren't they?
Yes, at least some of them that were fired upon.
So
were
what
US
were they?
Marshals.
What were they? So they were going to serve an arrest warrant to arrest somebody,
Yes.
and he came out of the house or
The reason they were going is because he had an illegal firearm. He's a
Yes.
felon with a registered
I
illegal
got you.
firearm.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've got a story on afn.net. I've already shared the link for it, so do look for the link on our Facebook page or wherever it is that you find links. After a 3-hour standoff, the suburban Charlotte home was torn open. Armored vehicles smashed into it, ripping off windows and the entire doorways that were left broken. Several armored vehicles were parked across yards, some with tree branches dangling off them. The U.S. Marshals Task Force was fired on by the wanted suspect as they approached the home, and the man was killed in the front yard, according to the police chief there. I've got a couple of sound bites. It's a horrible, terrible, no good situation that we hope no police officer ever goes through. But I do have some audio here of Charlotte Police Chief Johnny Jennings. He was on Fox and Friends this morning, and he said, unfortunately, this kind of thing does come with the territory for law enforcement officers. Clip 10.
We put on this uniform and we don't know if we're coming home and the dangers that are involved in this uniform, putting this uniform on. And a situation like this brings it all to reality.
This is just, I read this story last night. I was just really heartbroken for the community and the families, but I just didn't know exactly how this transpired because these men who went to serve an arrest warrant, right? They're going to arrest the guy,
Mhm.
okay? But I mean, these are highly skilled, highly trained, Wesley, officers.
Yes,
And-
yes, they are. And what happened was they were doing they've done this many times before. I'm sure I have a friend that's done this, going to arrest, who is a officer at the time who's going to do the arrest warrant. Well, it's just another day for them. Well, before they even got to approach fully all the way to the door, they were ambushed with shots. And so when they were ambushed shot, there was an officer that was shot at that time. They returned fire and killed the shooter. And then after the fact, from inside the house where they couldn't see, there was a lady and a 17-year-old man, or they say boy, 17 is a man. 17 boy 6-year-old boy and a woman inside. What they have not identified which one or both, but one or the other or both began shooting with their rifle from the inside of the house out, shot another one of the officers, and then several of the other officers went to try to rescue a couple of the officers that had been hit, and they've got shot. So that's how it all kind of unfolded quickly in the exchange of the fire.
Four confirmed deaths. Wow. Because you just rarely hear, you'll hear a story about one officer killed in wherever, Kansas City, Chicago, L.A., but you don't typically hear of 4 in one situation. Go ahead.
Well, there are so many questions we have about this. Obviously, the shooter, the woman, the 17-year-old man, as you said, Wesley, obviously they were prepared, heavily armed, ready to go, because one shooter, I don't think normally would be able to take out 4 officers like that, or 4 U.S. Marshals. It'd be almost impossible. What happened to the 17-year-old and to the woman? Were they taken into custody?
Yes, they are being questioned, according to the police chief we just heard from.
One other thing I want to point out.
By the way, 8 officers were shot, 4 killed.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Wesley.
What I wanted to back up and just highlight for a minute is the fact that there was a good couple of years there during the Summer of Love that we wanted to defund officers. And these officers, not only did they take care of the situation, they went above and beyond. They put their lives on the line, not just the beginning of going in there, but when they saw their officers, their buddies, their friends, their coworkers laying there shot, they left from behind the vehicle and cover to go help their officers, their buddies, their coworkers while being shot at.
Right.
These are the types of
heroes.
Yeah, obviously there's there's a 1% in every bunch, but that don't do the job the way they signed up to do. But 95, 96, 97% of officers are like these men here, who are here to serve and protect. And I don't know the guy's name, but the 4 or 5 that went after their brothers and their coworkers to save them, credit to them.
Mm-hmm. In our story on AFN.net, and again, I've shared the link, look in the Today's Issues Facebook page, the Marshals Service confirms one of its agents was killed. 2 officers from the State Department of Adult Correction also were killed. That's according to Governor Roy Cooper in the story we have on our website.
Let me ask you this question. Do the U.S. Marshals, this was the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force, so do we know at what point do U.S. Marshals get involved rather than, say, the local police department or sheriff's department?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Would that be something that involved interstate? You know what I'm saying? I'm just wondering. Interstate.
Like, when is their jurisdiction?
Yeah. But so this was anyway. This happened at 1:30 p.m. on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it also proves to the point that police officers, people involved in law enforcement, even like these marshals, they don't know what tomorrow holds, what kind of situation they're going to find themselves in.
You think to yourself, from trying to understand what's going on here, they're coming after this guy to take him in.
Right.
Mm-hmm. He opens fire.
Right.
Then the woman opens fire. The 17-year-old opens fire. You can't really be totally prepared. You don't know what you're up against in a situation like that. Right. So this was a truly tragic and horrible situation, and God bless the police officers, mm-hmm. marshals, and others who laid down their lives, and those who also ended up taking the guy out. It's an awful situation.
Next story.
Well, this could very well have been the lead. We've gone from peaceful protests on campus to complete anarchy, pretty much, at Columbia University, at least.
That's the big university in New York.
It's
getting so much attention.
It has gotten so. Yesterday, the university president, who people have been asking to resign for a couple of weeks now, based on what's going on there, the university set an ultimatum: hey, you need to break apart your 10 camp or you're going to be suspended. That deadline came, and they were still there. And then we had an event where, or a situation, I should say, where Columbia students took over portions of a building, broke some windows, barricaded doors. It's gone from protests as the news media wants you to believe, to complete anarchy there at a university.
All right, Ray, do you know anything about Columbia? Isn't it like an Ivy League school?
Oh, yes, it is. I mean, this is a tough place to get into. It's a top dollar school. And I mean, you pay a lot of money to go to school there. So they attract the elite, very elite faculty, the best of the best among the students.
Right.
I mean, they're on the level with Harvard and Yale and Princeton right up there. So
Okay.
one of the great universities.
Now, but evidently they can't control their own campus.
No.
They being the administration.
Yeah, well, they might have the ability, but they've clearly not taken the steps to put an end to this situation. And you have a lot of liberals siding with these, what the news media wants you to believe are protesters, saying they have First Amendment rights. First Amendment is, their speech is protected, things like that.
Okay, but now they've taken over a building near the campus's south lawn. I mean, these people, first of all, they were supposed to disperse and go away.
Correct.
They were ordered so by the president of the school,
Mhm.
right? That's what it's called?
The president.
Maybe called chancellor. And they just disregarded that order.
Mhm.
And then ultimatum has been issued like 3 different times. And now the president of the school won't call in the police. Is that true?
Well, they won't. There have been police there, but more often than not, they're shown in video, aerial footage, stuff like that you'll see on Fox or CNN. The police are basically just standing there observing to make sure things are not getting completely out of hand, although one might make the argument that it's already reached that point.
Yeah. Well, let me just say this. New York City is just out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Completely and totally out of control.
They got a lot of problems.
They got
This
yeah.
is one more.
I've been to New York City. Ray, I know you've been there. I've been there probably 10 times in my life. More than that. I've been there more than that because a lot of times I've had going to Israel or coming back from Europe or something like that. Spent a couple days, so it's been more than 10 times. But I guess 10 times where I've just got out and done the tourist thing and gone around. But Ray, it's just crime is out of control. Violent crime. It seems like nobody's. Here you have these wackadoodle liberal. I don't know. The liberals probably too.
Right.
Radicals.
Far left.
Mhm.
The
Yeah,
far left is
just-
in control there.
Just opening up the campus to anti-Semitism, and then now the faculty of this school is out there with the kids,
Yeah.
with the students.
I talked about that issue with students supporting Israel last week. A lot of these professors that do crazy woke things cling to their tenure. You have to do something really awful if you're a tenured professor to be fired. And I can't speak for everybody out there siding with these students, but some of them do have tenure. And students supporting Israel
You
said
mean the
if this-
student? I mean, you mean the professors?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Students supporting Israel said it's gotten to the point where universities need to look at their tenure policies and reform stuff because
Yeah.
this is going to continue.
I think I hope a lot of these universities flop and fail. And I hope this causes them great damage.
Yeah, I think between this and their DEI programs, they have to be in the hole financially. They've got to be.
Well,
I mean,
these
a lot of donors. Are
yeah,
pulling
these
out.
schools they are losing a lot of donors. These big Ivy League and other liberal schools are losing a lot of their alumni.
The owner of the Patriots last week was
Robert
like, I'm not
Kraft.
giving you any more money.
However, let me just say this: these schools have enormous endowments.
That's right.
So I don't know. They could reach into those endowment funds to, but here's where the school, whatever you want to call them, whatever they're called, board of directors, for lack of a better term, that they're called different things. Trustees, regents, trustees. They're going to have to take control.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have to fire some administration and. They're going to have to clean house, or their reputations are going to be.
That's true. Yep.
In the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is they're going to have a hard time recruiting new students, especially not going to get any Jews. Jewish students, and New York City is a big Jewish population. And I would guess Columbia University has a big Jewish population in their student body. We'll be back momentarily. Stay with us.
It's my turn. Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
There is within each of us a desire to be a success in life. It is a desire which God placed within us. Too many of us find our efforts towards success frustrated. This need not be the case. Success is indeed within reach of every person. One way to succeed, and by far the easiest, is to never try. Now that statement may seem a little strange, but if you'll study it for a moment, you will see the validity of it. Never attempt anything and you will never fail. Success will be automatic, even guaranteed. The world is full of people who never tried. They set their goals so low that they could not miss. They achieved their success early and easy. I knew a man once who was a great success, at least in his own eyes, as a member of his church. He came and joined and never came back until his funeral. He set his goal low and reached it quick and easy. It takes no great effort to succeed when one's goal is low, and a person can pat himself on the back while commending himself for great success. You'd be surprised at the number of people who have followed this easy route to success. But still, another way to be successful is to try half-heartedly. This is, of course, the best route open to those who wish to get out cheap while maintaining their self-respect. They can say, I tried, and they did do that. They tried. They succeeded in trying. There were those who laughed at Thomas Edison when he began working toward developing an electric light. They told Edison that it couldn't be done because they had already tried it, and they had. And for the most part, they were well-respected men in their profession and well-educated. But they laughed at Edison. But Edison wasn't satisfied with a half-hearted effort. He set his goal a little higher. Now, the third route toward success is to be serious. It was said once by John Mark concerning Jesus that when someone made a certain remark to the Galilean that he, quote, paid no attention to them. What a grand statement. What a terrific statement. When those about him were trying to get Jesus to lower his goals, his ideals, his ambitions, he paid no attention to them. The person who is serious about success will pay no attention to the prophets of doom. Now, this path toward success isn't easy and is often very disappointing. It is difficult sometimes to keep our goals high and not listen to the words of the world. People laughed at Edison, called him a fool for trying seriously. But they don't laugh at him now when they flip the light switch. People also laughed at Christ, but only foolish people laugh at him today. The all-important question is this: what do we mean by success? Success by whose standards? God is the final judge over our success, and often we may be a failure in everyone else's eyes except his. When a person has done the best he can do and remained true to the best he has known, then in God's eyes he is a success. That's the reason I say that success is within reach of everyone, even you.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
The Lord looks down from heaven on all mankind to see if there are any who understand God, any who seek God. Psalm 14, verse 2.
American Family Radio.
This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the radio program Today's Issues on American Family Radio. This is live radio, so if we mess up, Chris, it's for all the world to see.
Yeah, it's the first time for everything when you mess up.
This is not edited. It's live radio. Ray Pritchard's with us in Kansas City. Good morning again, Ray.
Good morning, Tim.
So Chris Woodward, Ray Pritchard, Tim Wildman, and Wesley Wildman. Wesley went to the break room and hasn't come back. There he comes. All right. So listen, there's an issue that we need to be aware of if you aren't already. Some of you have already heard about this, involving the World Health Organization. And one person sounding the alarm is our friend Frank Gaffney from the program Securing America, heard weekdays at 10 p.m. Central Time right here on American Family Radio. Frank hosts the show Securing America, and we've invited him on now to tell us about this. Frank, good morning.
Good morning to you, gents.
Hey, Frank, tell us maybe just, I know that you're well versed in this and deep into it and understanding it, but there may be a lot of people listening right now who have not heard about this whole situation. So can you start from the beginning?
I'll give you the shortest of short courses because I know time is limited. The World Health Organization was started in 1948 basically to help provide advice to nations around the world, particularly underdeveloped ones, about basic sanitation. Just how you could have a healthier population by not doing stupid things like pouring sewage into the streets, that sort of thing. Over the years, it has morphed a bit, but most especially in the period leading up to and following the COVID pandemic. Why that's so important is the guy who is the Director General of the World Health Organization, a fellow by the name of Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, who, by the way, was selected for this position out of obscurity as a minister in an Ethiopian government that was regarded by ours as a terrorist regime, was plucked for that job by the Chinese Communist Party. And what he has done in this pandemic period and then subsequent to it is to try to amass power and exercise it in a way that has proven to be not just harmful but deadly. In fact, two of our best doctors, Dr. Robert Malone and Dr. Peter McCullough, believe that something on the order of 1 million Americans who perished during the COVID pandemic died needlessly because of the bad advice that they were given by Tedros Ghebreyesus. The bad advice including adopting what he called the China model for contending with a pandemic, which involved, as you may remember, putting on masks, social distancing, quarantining, lockdowns, jabs, mandatory jabs at that, with inadequately tested and it turns out unsafe so-called vaccines. They weren't even vaccines. They were actually just radical gene therapies. This bad advice cost us dearly in terms of not only loss of life, but countless billions of dollars, and, the upheaval in our society that resulted in the removal of Donald Trump from the presidency. Now, get this. The World Health Organization, under Tedros' leadership, has come up with a plan with the strong support, by the way, of the Biden administration and Tedros' Chinese masters and the World Economic Forum of Davos and the European Union and Bill Gates and Big Pharma, all these globalists who have in mind what they call global governance. And the World Health Organization is intended to be the leading edge of that because Tedros Ghebreyesus, if not one, but two treaties are approved by a group called the World Health Assembly, the member nations of the World Health Organization, starting on the 27th of May. If they approve these two treaties, Tedros Ghebreyesus will be given not only the authority to make advice and recommendations to us about public health policy, he will be able to dictate when we have a public health emergency of international concern. And not only that, but to dictate what we must do in response to it. He's also got, by the way, some rather sweeping ideas as to what would constitute a public health emergency of international concern. He includes among those climate change, reproductive rights, transgender rights, the issue of poverty, the issue of instability, the issue of gun violence.
This has nothing to do
And
with
what we're watching.
diseases. Okay. But
Well, it believes it's not pandemics, that's for sure, but he thinks it has something to do with health. He also, by the way, I think believes that Gaza is a public health emergency of international concern, and I think one of the things he will do with all this power is he will tell Israel it must stop its operations there. It must stop short of destroying Hamas, and that sets the stage for the compulsory surrender of Israel as a practical matter. This is all stuff that need not happen to us, but that's what's in the works right now, and I so appreciate you taking the time to talk about it.
Absolutely. We're talking to Frank Gaffney, host of Securing America, heard weeknights here on American Family Radio at 10 o'clock Central Time, about the World Health Organization and what's supposed to happen on May the 27th. Let me ask you, I know Wesley has a question, and Ray, I know, but let me ask you this, Frank. Our country, as it stands now, we look to, and I know people are going to laugh, but I'm just telling you how it has traditionally been. Up until COVID, I think some of these groups had more of a good reputation, not so much anymore, but the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC. Then you had the National
NIH,
the National
Institutes of Health.
Institutes of Health. Was that Dr. Fauci's group? All right. So you have these groups, the American Medical Association, for example, and then you've got your state agencies like state health departments, for example, and they are basically the look-to organizations for public health in the U.S. And now you're telling me, but even those organizations aren't dictatorships. They have to go, a lot of times governors and or legislatures consent to giving these organizations more power because they, are experts in the field of health, of public health, for example. But so explain to me the mechanism that the World Health Organization would use to subvert authority on American soil and with the American people, public health requirements. That's the way to put it.
Well, you made several really important points there, in terms of most especially how so many of these institutions have now lost the confidence of the American people. And how did that happen? Well, it happened because they were following Tedros Ghebreyesus' prescriptions and directions. And what that has translated into is not just that they did damn fool things, if I can use that expression, but they created conditions under which we are now, I think, on notice as to what's going to come if this whole thing follows the course that is planned. We will have people doing what happened to us the last time. We'll have doctors who have been basically paid to go along with this program. We'll have pharmacists who will refuse to fill prescriptions if it's not approved therapies according to the World Health Organization. We'll have government agencies that, despite their own plans for example, pandemic responses, that will jettison those plans in order to do what the World Health Organization, which is, by the way, not some center of great competency on medicine. Far from it. We've got a Dr. David Bell, who worked for the World Health Organization. He's the first to tell you these guys don't know what they're doing. The truth of the matter is much of this went down because people were panicked. And when they panic because they fear, some kind of health crisis, tyrants step in and take advantage of it. And we saw some of that even, frankly, from governors in states here in the United States. You remember churches that weren't allowed to
lockdowns,
worship services when
lockdowns that went on and on and on. Not
on and
on and on.
Exactly
Michigan, for example, I call her Governor Lockdown. What happened there?
Yeah.
Hey, Frank.
Well,
Yeah,
and,
go ahead,
and
Wesley.
Governor of California.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same.
Frank Gaffney, this is
But
Wesley.
my point is,
oh, go ahead. Finish your
you've
point,
asked
then I
the
got a
right
question.
Most people would say this can't possibly happen here. I'm just telling you, it did happen in this pandemic.
Yeah. This is Wesley Wildman here. I got a quick question. So obviously, in the last, I don't know, 10 or 20 years, at least in my adult life, the country has not been any more divided hard and in opposition from the left and the right. I mean, the intensity is as high as I've seen it in my adult life. However, with all the division and the hard lines, this is one area that overwhelming majority of Americans are saying no to masks, no to lockdowns, no to social distancing, no to mandating.
We're not doing that again.
The coercion. That there was a hard shift to get up to the 65% of Americans going, we're not, no, not doing that. So what can we do as Americans to stop what you're talking about that could potentially happen? Because surely when you got the majority on your side in this issue, we can do something.
You're absolutely right. And I thank you so much for the really important question. The truth of the matter is, none of what I just described to you could take place unless the American people are kept absolutely in the dark about what's going on here. And that's what's happening. They're having negotiations as we speak in Geneva, Switzerland, to cook up these new arrangements that are going to replace our constitutional form of government with what they call, as I said, global governance, meaning run by a tyrant in the person of this Tedros Ghebreyesus, completely unaccountable, completely, unrepresentative, for that matter, of any of us. The answer to your question about what we can do about this is we can light this up. We can do what we're doing here, yes, and what we do on our show, Securing America, every night on your station. And I thank God for that, your stations.
Amen.
We can make sure that the American people are not blindsided by this. I call it the Nancy Pelosi rule. These guys have in mind, they'll let you know what's in this after they've approved it. That cannot be done.
Can we stop it?
Senate,
Can we stop it from happening?
100%. We can stop it. I'm telling you right now, we can stop it, and here's how we can stop it. We can become knowledgeable about what they're doing. We can go to the sovereigntycoalition.org website, and we can sign a statement that says, not now, not ever, frankly, but not now. We do not want these treaties to be finalized in the next month, which is the plan. And more to the point, what we need to do is we need to go to every single person. I'm fond of saying that, generally politicians don't care a whole lot about you, but in the run-up to an election, they do. We can talk to every single candidate for the Congress, incumbent or otherwise, every single senator, especially incumbent or otherwise, every candidate for governor, and for sure the candidates for president of the United States. And we can ask them, where do you stand on surrendering our sovereignty, sir or ma'am? Where do you stand on giving up states' rights? Because federal government doesn't have the right to manage federal health policy. It's not one of the enumerated powers.
Right.
And where do you stand on giving up my individual medical freedom? I don't want Dr. Tedros as my doctor.
Sure.
But that's what's in prospect now. That's what we saw in the pandemic.
Hey,
here's the thing, folks.
Has
if
anybody?
You simply help us light this up.
Okay.
We will turn this off, I believe.
What about congressmen or senators? Usually, when you get issues like this, you hear from Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee. You hear from Ted Cruz from Texas. You hear from Missouri. Help me out here.
Josh Hawley.
Josh Hawley, for example. Those three come to mind. There are others. Those are senators. Is anybody taking the lead or speaking out directly on this in Congress?
The best guy in the United States Senate is Ron Johnson from Wisconsin. He has been doing it. Most of the rest, if they know anything about it, have been pretty quiet, frankly. But
Ron Johnson,
especially guys like Ted Cruz, who are up for re-election. When he was Solicitor General of Texas, he litigated some important states' rights, cases before the Supreme Court. He should be all over this thing. In fact, every Republican should be all over it.
Right.
They have all co-sponsored legislation saying, at a minimum, these treaties have to come to the Senate for its advice and consent. But my point is this, if I may just make a concluding comment. Where this thing will go off the rails, I believe, is when Democrats, as one of you was just saying a moment ago, this shouldn't be a partisan issue. Democrats should recognize that they have a responsibility to save our sovereignty as much as Republicans. And if we make it clear that there will be the ultimate penalty paid by anybody, Democratic or Republican,
I think we lost him.
Who goes along now to prevent these treaties from being approved, and then we're being stuck with them. We may try to get out from under them. Maybe Donald Trump will come in. But all of that means months and months and months of being under this tyranny, and it'll be very hard to get out from under it. So sovereigntycoalition.org is where I want them to go, all of our folks, but also to start talking about this, start demanding answers from people seeking your vote. Make sure that everybody understands that if you're voting to surrender our sovereignty and our personal medical freedom, not only won't you get my vote, but you're going to lose your job if you have already got it, period. And that, especially if Joe Biden takes that aboard, I think you're going to find he's going to not want any part of having to run for re-election on the basis that he surrendered your sovereignty to some communist agent in Geneva.
Okay. Well, listen, thank you, Frank, for warning us about this. If I call my congressman or my senator and I speak to them, which I'm encouraging everybody to do, can you put it in a nutshell what I need to say? Because the receptionist on the other end of the phone will be taking a note they take notes from their constituencies. Do I just say to them, tell Congressman or tell Senator so-and-so to stop this May 27th treaty with the World Health Organization? Is that what I say?
That's pretty good. It's actually two treaties. It could happen between the 27th and the 1st of June. But the main thing is you want to say, don't surrender my sovereignty.
Okay. To the World Health Organization. Okay, gotcha.
To the World Health Organization, or frankly anybody else.
Yeah.
Most immediately, that's the idea, is to give Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus the right to become my personal doctor.
Gotcha.
I won't have it, and I will not vote for you if you do that to me.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
very
gentlemen.
much.
God bless you. You are vital to this cause.
Thank you, sir.
SovereigntyCoalition.org. Check it out.
Thank you. Hey, Chris, I found an excellent article on this from the Federalist.
Okay, I can share that.
But I don't know how to. I don't have an email on this.
What is the headline?
If you go, well, I did Google, but if you go, it's called "Who's Global Governance Gambit?"
Okay.
Whose global governance gambit is a threat to democracy? Do you have it?
I found it. I will share it on our Facebook page.
I trust the Federalist.
On this, for sure, on this issue.
Their news site.
Yes, I would. It's very good that you mentioned that. We have our own stories as well on AFN.net, so look for that link. It's funny you mentioned. I trust the Federalist. I do as well. The reason I bring that up is because last week I was talking with Frank's partner, Reggie Littlejohn. She partnered with him on the creation of the Sovereignty Coalition, which he mentioned just a moment ago. I shared that link as well. Reggie, the reason I got her on the phone is because the World Health Organization says all of this is not true, and they've had their allies in places like the Associated Press do so-called fact checks on this issue, saying, again, this is not true. All these people are misled.
You mean they're saying what Frank said is not true?
Correct.
But
To which Reggie told me, don't believe what they say, believe what they do, and look at our press releases where they have everything laid out, just like Frank mentioned.
So if they want to go, what I'm trying to do here, and Ray Pritchard's with us, Wesley Wildman, Chris Woodward, I'm Tim Wildman, this is American Family Radio. What I'm trying to do here is maybe there are a lot of people listening. That's what our interview with Frank's first they've heard of this, but they don't know how to communicate that to their friends and family. And if they give them an article that they can read, which explains everything in layman's terms, that's what I'm trying to get at. So,
he's put that article and the article of Act Now, which is on the Sovereignty Coalition. He's put both of those links up, so you can go to.
So if you go to our Today's Issues Facebook page, we just posted 2 articles on the subject we were just talking about with Frank that you can read and pass on to friends and family.
Very
and
short read. It explains it very simply.
Explains everything succinctly.
Yes, it does.
Correct. Two or three more links, and my name will be officially changed to Link.
A 2-link. You sound like a rapper.
Well, you know,
2-link Woodward, ladies and gentlemen, coming to the stage. Frank,
I grew up on the mean streets of a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
Ray, what do you think about Ray? You didn't. Have a chance
It
to
is
come.
shocking to me that this is happening. What's the word? Surreptitiously, they're slipping this in. But this is a globalist takeover of the United States healthcare system. Which, if you made a list of things you don't want to see happen, that'd be near the top of things we don't want to see happen. Goodness gracious, give to those, he called them the communists in Geneva, giving them the right to dictate healthcare policies to us. So it is past high time for Christians and patriots and conservatives to stand up and speak out and, light a fire under some of the good guys up there in Congress and say, hey, leaders, speak out. Let's stop this before it's too late.
Yeah, our nation was born out of somebody from a long distance away telling us what to do. And men and women stood up and said, oh, no, you don't.
No,
and here we are going, okay, well, if you say so.
Well, there's one axiom, if that's what it is, that's or one that's true, and that is people are willing to give up their freedom if they're scared to death.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a tactic too.
But even Americans love their freedom and their liberty for the most part, but people will surrender that in the name of safety and security, and that's what happened during the COVID pandemic. Is that not to say there weren't real issues, at least initially, with what COVID was doing to people, to a lot of people, in terms of the effect on the lungs and so forth. It was dangerous at first, but then we learned it wasn't. It was for the vast majority of people, it was just the flu, okay? But now, if you can scare people to death, they'll say, well, I'll do whatever you say do. I'll surrender my freedoms if you'll keep me safe. And so that's what you have to contend with here. But I'll tell you what we learned, Ray, during the COVID pandemic, and if I get Wesley started on this, we'll be here.
If you're going to do it now, because there's only 2 minutes left.
Yeah, then you can
do
come
it now.
back.
That's going to have to stop me.
But Ray, what a lot of trust, as you said, I think you said, Ray, a lot of trust was broken between the American people and these institutions that we had come to respect. So
there's a lot of money in the trust bank, and suddenly it disappeared after the pandemic. Because we were lied to, we were misled, our leaders were misled, we were told things were so that weren't so.
Right.
And they forced the complete shutdown of our society and did it all over the world. So I don't blame anybody for being skeptical, and I can't think of anything I want less than having bureaucrats. Just leave it that way. Just bureaucrats in Geneva legislating health policy to the people of America.
Yeah.
Them's fighting words. We don't want that.
No, I agree. The World Health Organization.
Now you want to get me started?
Well,
no, I'm just kidding.
We got to take a break right now.
No, I'm kidding.
I think there's the most. I don't know what word I want to use.
Sure.
When we were told by our leaders, both the health organizations and the political leaders, especially the liberal leaders, that the COVID vaccine shots would keep you from getting COVID and keep you from spreading COVID. We were told that, and then that turned out within months to be proven not true.
180.
That's when
not partially true.
That's when they lost me completely. Huh? I said, you can't trust these people.
That's where they lost a lot of the liberals. A lot of people on the left. A lot of people on the left said, "No, I'm not getting a booster.
It was not a true vaccine.
It wasn't a fix-all.
Some people that have been twice boosted
we'll be back.
Get COVID.
Yep.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
The Bible is God's infallible word, the foundation for our lives, establishing what we believe and who we are. But to more and more people, that's just not the case. They try to pick it apart and change it instead of letting it shape them. The documentary, The God Who Speaks, establishes the Bible's infallibility and is a great tool to solidify our faith. Watch it anytime at streaming.afa.net.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. New developments in former President Donald Trump's New York hush money trial. Eric Shawn breaks down his gag order hearing from court in Manhattan.
A punishment of incarceration could be imposed if the former president continues to violate the judge's gag order. This morning, Judge Juan Merchan held the former president in contempt of court and fined him $9,000, $9,000, $1,000 each for 9 different times that Judge Merchan ruled the former president has violated the judge's gag order by attacking witnesses in the trial on True Social, as well as 2 times on the campaign website. And that could go up even more by 4,000, because on Thursday they're going to have a hearing on 4 more attempted violations.
President Trump spoke to reporters at the New York State Supreme Court.
This is a hoax. This is a judge who's conflicted. Badly conflicted. I've never seen a judge so conflicted.
Pennsylvania Congressman Dan Muser is calling on law enforcement to get involved at Columbia University after anti-Jewish anarchists illegally occupied an administrative building on campus.
They want to be called anarchists, but really what they are is they're simply criminals engaged in destruction.
Fox News legal consultant Jonathan Turley says he can't understand why officials are waiting to put an end to this.
You know, you can't stop the police from coming in to rescue someone.
Right.
So it depends, but the university's made very clear that they want this to sort of burn out. Well, you now have a 5-alarm fire. You've lost a major building. At what point do you say, we have to control our university if we're going to do higher education? Because you can't not only lose control, but lose your buildings. What do you have at the end?
A Georgia lawmaker is filing a lawsuit against Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis. Republican Georgia State Representative Misha Maynor is accusing Willis and others of protecting a man who she says stalked her. Maynor says Willis never looked into her case, despite numerous witnesses coming forward, and adds there was a conflict of interest between the alleged stalker and Fulton County Commissioner Marvin Arrington, as he previously served as his personal attorney.
She never fought for me as a victim, a Fulton County resident. She was always in the pocket of the commissioner and retaliated against me after I contacted the U.S. Department of Justice Office of Violence Against Women.
For the first time since COVID and the George Floyd riots in 2020, more police officers have been hired than have left the profession. Steve Jordahl reports.
Police agencies added more officers than they lost for the first time in 4 years, according to the Police Executive Research Forum. It's a small gain, a net of 621 sworn officers over 2023, but still a move in the right direction, according to Randy Sutton of the Wounded Blue. But he says the total number of working officers is still well below the minimum needed for effective policing.
The other side of that coin is that they're looking at the lowest numbers in historical reference points towards the retention and also the recruitment of police officers.
And he says it'll take a long time for the new officers to hit the streets.
There's still a massive dearth of police officers in this country, and it takes at least 2 to 3 years from the beginning of the hiring process in order to get a competent, fully trained police officer.
Part of the reason for the increase, according to Sutton, may be that many police departments in large cities have lowered their recruiting standards.
Many police agencies have diminished their recruitment standards in order to bring more people into the fold, so to speak. And that's a dangerous precedent to set.
And Sutton says even if the increase in net officers continues, it will be decades before policing has recovered from the last 4 years of abuse from the left. I'm Steve Jordahl.
Stocks are falling after the latest hotter-than-forecast reading on the economy raised more worries about inflation and interest rates staying high. The S&P 500 lost 0.7%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was down 313 points, and the Nasdaq Composite was 0.8% lower. More news online at afn.net and the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Transgenderism, critical race theory, and evolution. Is your child or grandchild ready to face these and other issues on campus? Hi, I'm Kirby Anderson with Probe Ministries and Point of View. You know, many Christians leave the church after they graduate, but they don't have to graduate from God. That's why we have the Mind Games Camp this year, June 16 to 22nd, a week of presentations, role play, as well as fun at camp. Sign up today at probe.org and help them meet these challenges to their faith.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
To today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Hey, for those listening in Richmond, Virginia, we were off the air there for 24 hours or so. One of our transmitters gave up the ghost. Ray Pritchard on from Kansas City, Wesley Wildman, Steve Paisley Jordan in studio with us. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, everybody. Hey, Ray.
Ray, you ever had a transmitter die on you? You've had a transmission die on you, hadn't you, Ray?
You definitely had that. I had transmissions die many times.
Yes.
Many times, yeah.
So, anyway, so our engineers got in a truck and drove from Tupelo, Mississippi to Richmond, VA. And now we're back on the air. So there you go. Magic. The magic of engineers.
That's right.
And yes, that you pay a lot of money to make sure that they know what they're doing.
Well, some places around the country we have contracts. I know I'm doing a deep dive into our network here, but we have contracts with engineers who live, closer to the station, and we can just call them and they can go out and fix it. In some cases, that's not possible, and we have to actually physically have our engineers leave Tupelo and go wherever in the U.S. to fix our station. But we're back on the air there in Richmond, Virginia, where we have a lot of wonderful listeners. You're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Steve Paisley Jordan joins us now. Good morning again, Steve.
Hey, everybody.
What are you leading with in your news segment here,
There's
Steve?
so much stuff that's going on right now, but this is from the Oh Please Be True file.
Okay.
This is a post from a gentleman named Suleiman Ahmed, who has been posting very pro-Palestinian things and everything. He is reporting, and I haven't verified this, he's reporting that Shiraz University in Iran is offering scholarships to American and European university students who've been expelled for their, quote, free speech. Oh, please let that be true.
I love that. That's great.
Speech.
All they got to do is go to, did you say Iran?
Iran, yeah.
So
the Gays for Palestine, they just set up a chapter right there. I'm sure they'll be very welcome.
Yes.
Oh, man. That's a beautiful story.
Okay. Next story.
I hope that's true.
Yeah.
All right. Elise Stefanik is filing ethics charges against Jack Smith today, accusing him of violating Department of Justice standards and trying to tip the election against former President Donald Trump. The letter to the DOJ's Office of Professional Responsibility, Stefanik urged the government watchdog to investigate Smith over accusations of, quote, abusing the resources of the federal government to unlawfully interfere in the 2024 presidential election. I think almost everybody.
Who is she, for those who don't know?
Elise Stefanik is a Republican congresswoman from New York, rather conservative. She's a Trump Republican,
right?
MAGA, and she is claiming that Jack Smith is I think almost everybody that's listening to this at least has heard, if they don't believe, that all of these trials, while some of them may have legal merit, that Trump maybe have done something, none of them have been brought in accordance with the way that they would treat a normal person. And almost everybody believes that all of these were lined up on purpose to keep him off the campaign trail to keep him from being elected president.
And they didn't calculate that it would backfire.
It's backfiring in a big way. But anyway, so Elise Stefanik has Jack Smith on the hook. She wants the DOJ to investigate him.
But he is the DOJ.
Well, Jack Smith is, he's from but they have an
investigate yourself.
They have an Office of Professional Responsibility. I mean, it's kind of like
technically, there's a difference. He is a prosecutor representing the U.S. Department of Justice, but I think this is just more of this is basically more or less her making a public point. I don't know that the Biden's Department of Justice. The AG Merrick Garland will, I say Biden's. I mean, it is whoever the president is. It's the Justice Department is known as the AG. It's a cabinet position under that president. So anyway, we'll see what happens there.
Police departments have internal affairs departments that are run independent of the police chief. And I don't know if the Department of Professional Responsibility for the DOJ is similar, that it runs independent of the Attorney General. They need every government agency or law enforcement agency should have something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, next. Do you guys remember, I don't know if we talked about this, there was a middle school girls track and field competition this would be in West Virginia. And there was a boy who thought he was a girl that was going to compete in the shot put competition.
Yeah.
Well, they have 5 middle school girls who were very brave. They took their shot put, they stepped into the circle, and then they stepped out, forfeiting their turn. Well, the school board at Harrison County Board of Education has banned the girls from any future competition.
What? They got in trouble for this?
The school board banned them.
In West Virginia?
Yes.
For forfeiting?
For forfeiting. Now,
why can't you just forfeit?
I know.
Well,
why do you get punished for forfeiting?
What happened, I saw the video. These girls, it was a high school shot put competition, okay, track and field. They're out there, and there's 5 of them. And 4 of them are girls, and one of them's a guy who says he's a girl. And he wants to compete against the girls. Shot put. I mean, is there any sport? There's a lot of sports, but any shot put?
Right.
You know
what I'm saying? You'd have a pretty big advantage.
The man would typically have a huge advantage.
Right.
Shot put. Right.
So the girls said, "We're not doing this," and they actually the girls,
13 years old,
the 4 girls walked up to the place where they're supposed to throw the shot put from, and then said no, or they turned around and put the shot put down. Or I've forgotten exactly. In other words, they were saying, they were making it clear, we're not going to compete against a boy.
I think when you step in the circle with your shot put, you're registered as an attempt, and if you step out, then as an attempt with 0 feet. I think.
Then that's what happened.
Yeah, so it's 5 girls now,
and good for them.
Good for them. So the school board, again, in Harrison County Board of Education, has banned the girls from future competitions. However, West Virginia Attorney General Patrick Morrissey has filed a lawsuit against that Board of Education on behalf of the girls.
Good.
So, to be determined. We'll follow that along, but just so that's an update there of a story you may have been following.
You know, I'm surprised that, Ray, this idea of boys being able to compete against girls in sports, that's just an absolute, complete, total no-brainer.
It's insanity.
Right.
It's sheer insanity to think that, well, and especially when you've got a guy who is pretending, and that's what it is, who is pretending to be a girl or has deluded himself, and who's so mentally off that he now thinks he's a girl.
Right.
Okay, he needs help.
Yes.
And I want to say the guy needs help.
Yes.
There's no question about that. But he should not be allowed. He shouldn't be allowed to use the girls' bathrooms, locker rooms, dressing rooms, and certainly should not be allowed to compete with him pretending that he's a girl, because he's not.
Anybody who defends this insanity is I want a name for them.
Well, you said it's a no-brainer, so maybe they have no brain.
Okay, well, you got a lot of these celebrities who are doing virtue signaling, is what I call it, where they say they don't have a problem, or they're for boys being able to compete against girls as long as they call themselves a girl. But if that were to, you had the let's say, what's the soccer player's name? The girl soccer player that wears the pink hair. And
Megan Rapinoe.
Okay, Megan Rapinoe.
Or Rapinoe.
And she was like a star soccer player on the U.S. national team.
That's right.
Right? And she's an open lesbian, and she just can't stand Christians or conservatives at all.
Or America.
Yeah, and our own
values.
She's the one that takes a knee all
right.
the time during the national anthem, right?
That's right.
Well, she's retiring. How convenient for her to say now that she doesn't have a problem with trans athletes playing girls soccer. Riley Gaines last week was on with us. It was an excellent interview, and she said a lot of these athletes are pulling the ladder up, so is what she called it. So when they're getting ready to retire, or they have retired, and then they want to say they don't have a problem. But if, what's her name, Rapinoe?
Megan.
Yeah, what if Megan had been beat out by 4 guys 10 years ago when she was in her prime, then she would have complained as it being unfair. Same thing with the University of South Carolina women's basketball coach, Dawn Staley. She's a great coach. She's a great recruiter. She's won like 2 or 3 national championships, 3, I think. No question about her coaching credentials. But on this issue, she's an idiot.
Yeah.
She says she didn't have a problem with boys playing girls basketball as long as they say they're a girl. I guarantee you, if she played next year and her South Carolina team plays another school.
Any school.
And that school runs out 3 boys that are 6'8", 240, and they crush South Carolina.
But they have long hair, though.
Yeah, or lipstick or whatever. And they actually, today, I'm thinking you don't even have to.
No, you don't, but I'm just making.
Yeah, and they beat South Carolina, the former defending national champs, by 50 points.
It's going to be the loss of words.
Then she will say, you know what she'll say? You know what? I really didn't mean that. I didn't think that would happen. I think this is unfair.
Well,
I hope it happens.
I hope it does happen too. All right, so listen to this and see if I'm on to something, okay?
Okay.
All right. So first of all, before I give you a couple of analogies here, try to follow something, I want to be clear. Transgenderism is a sin and it's bad, okay? And they don't need reaffirmation for what they're doing. It's a mental disorder. They need counseling and help, Christian counseling specifically. However, if a transgender boy is playing in women's sports, then it's not a boy because we're using the word transgender. Therefore, why would they not just create a separate category where all transgenders, which is a category, have a transgender sports? You have transgender basketball, you have transgender football.
That's the fairest thing to do.
Yeah, and then you have a transgender what was the sport that they were doing? The shot put. Transgender shot put. You knock yourself out. All transgenders can compete against each other
in their own category.
Because they're trans, and that solves all this problem. Now, I think it's crazy that we're at this point in our history in America. But if you're going to avoid lawsuits like this and to be quote fair, it's only fair for them to compete against themselves. Both if a woman says she's a man and a man says she's a woman. Otherwise, it's called female sports. It's not called transgender sports.
That's true.
I got a question.
All right.
How come you never hear about Susie, who decides she's Bill and wants to run against a bunch of high school boys?
That's the ultimate.
Never hear that.
Yep. Nope.
No, which only proves the point, Ray, of the biological obvious differences.
Look, it's just simple, isn't it? Some things we make complicated that really are simple. Male and female, he created them. You're a man, you're a woman, you're a boy, you're a girl. That's what you are, made by God. All the opportunities are out there for you, but you don't help yourself if you pretend to be something that you are not. A boy who pretends he's a girl,
he's still a boy.
He's still a boy, thank you. And he's still
a boy, and you call yourself a girl, put a dress on, wear some lipstick, paint your fingernails, whatever like that. And listen, I'm not saying that there are, as Ray said earlier, Wesley said, these people are messed up, spiritually and mentally.
Yep.
And so to that extent, I do feel sorry for them. Okay. However, when we start normalizing this kind of stuff
and affirming it,
that's when it gets whacked out on society's part. Ed Vitagliano, my colleague, had a great analogy here, which I've used before, and he's not here today, or I'd ask him to do it himself. And that is this. When a young girl, for example, is anorexic, I should say, she has anorexia, and she says, I'm fat, even though she's starving herself to death. We don't affirm her by saying, yeah,
yes,
you know what, yes, you are fat. We affirm your identity. No, we say that is unhealthy, and that is unsafe, and you can't do that or you're going to starve yourself to death. We don't affirm that. But yet, so in the same way, we shouldn't affirm people who are boys who say they're girls.
That's right.
Or girls who say they're boys. That's only denying reality. So anyway, that's
and stats prove over time has proven that is actually counter to their health. So
sure it is. Sure it is.
So it's not just a neutral.
Yeah.
Affirming them is not just a neutral statement.
Right.
Ultimately, it leads to the destruction of their bodies. It leads to the destruction of their health, and ultimately, in some cases, it leads to suicide.
Yep. No, exactly. And we do have something called science, which biology.
Mm-hmm.
The chromosomes are different in male and female, and no matter how many dresses you put on, how much makeup you put on, how many fingernails you put on, it doesn't change your basic chromosomes biologically male, female. All right, let's move on. Steve, what's your next story?
All right, well, let's go back to West Virginia because...
It's almost heaven.
Yeah, it is. In West Virginia, the Circuit Court of Appeals...
Skip that story and go to the one... Excuse me for interrupting.
That's fine.
You there. Skip that story and go to the Texas with the audio from the students.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So we have we're going back to campus, and some of the students that we've been listening to, Fox has been doing a good job of finding Israeli students and getting their experience, because what we're hearing from some of the protesters are there is never such a thing as October 7th, and there's no Jewish students that are being intimidated here. It's just not happening. Well, it is, and we have one. And he wasn't named. They stuck a camera in a bunch of Jewish students, got their opinion. There's a bunch of them. But this gentleman.
Where was this?
This was at UCLA, I think. And UT Austin.
Yeah.
UT Austin.
University of Texas at Austin, where they've been having some protesters.
Yes. And this was his experience, Cut 11.
I was just taking a final, and this is just an intimidation. I'm trying to scare Jews off campus. I'm trying to do my final, and in the background I hear they're chanting for the death of Israel, the death of Jews. It's completely unacceptable. If they want peace, they don't stand for anything like it. Israel is a democratic state. It's the only democracy in the Middle East. This is, at the end of the day, they don't want Jews on campus. They're trying to scare us off. They don't want us here.
Are you going to be scared off?
No, absolutely not. We will not follow with our history. We will not be led like lambs to the slaughter.
What are your parents telling you? Finals are coming up next week. What are your parents telling you? Do you want to come back?
They're telling us to stay away, at least mine, and in my opinion, I'm going right into it. This is not a time we have to be strong. History shows us that if we're strong, we can defend ourselves.
That was a Jewish student at the University of Texas in Austin.
Along with several other Jewish students.
Yeah, there was others that they were interviewing.
Yeah.
Now, they've handled it pretty well down there, haven't they?
I believe so. I think Texas has sent in the police to
In
disperse.
California and New York in particular, they're letting these the inmates run the asylum. Huh?
That's right. That's the best analogy.
Ray, have you seen this?
Well, it's out of control.
Yeah.
And you know what's going to happen, Tim, is that because they have let this go on, they have emboldened the agitators. They've emboldened the outside people, and they've emboldened the students. Hey, you can riot, you can take over, you can you can break into a building, you can hold a sit-in or a lockdown or whatever you want to call it, and we're going to see this spread across the country. And I will say this: I predict I think where this is all going is going to come to a climax at the Democrat National Convention in Chicago. I think they're planning a huge blowout there.
When is that? July? When is that? Democrat National?
I'm looking.
You know what? I know in the states of Florida and Georgia and Texas, I believe they're not putting up with these protesters who are breaking the law.
That's right. They don't have a lot of. There's been many of them that didn't have credentials, or they didn't have permits to be protested. On top of that, the ones that do, or even some that either do or don't. I'm not sure if they do or don't, but there are many times they're preventing people to getting to their jobs.
Yeah, they're blocking access to it. That's what they were doing with these students.
And guess what happened in Tennessee when people blocked the pro-life or blocked pregnancy clinics for keeping people going in? They got arrested and sentenced to 14 years in prison.
Yeah, if these were pro-lifers protesting, they would be jailed.
Yes, by blocking access.
Yeah, So.
The Democrat National Convention is August 19th to 22nd.
What do you think is going to happen there, Ray?
Oh, I think you're going to see 100, 200,000 of these protesters.
Wow.
I think you're going to see. Look, they've already said, their leaders have said they want to reenact what happened in 1968 in the Democratic Convention in the city of Chicago. And you got to remember, Tim talked many times that Chicago, the leadership is in the hands of the far radical left. And I think the demonstrators believe they can blow the place up. So.
Well, you know what? That makes sense, because what you're going to have then in August in Chicago, you're going to have the Democratic National Convention, and then you're going to have these pro-Hamas and other kinds of far left causes, right? But these people are going to they're going against their own people.
Right.
They're saying the Democrat Party, for them, AOC is going to be a right-winger. Huh? Am I right?
That.
Especially Joe Biden.
Sure.
Joe Biden, who pretends he's a centrist now, he's going to be viewed as a tool of the right wing.
Right.
So I could see that mayor there in Chicago, he's a far lefty. I wonder how he's going to handle this when you have all these protesters coming in, and then he's going to have to be the one, I would guess, authorizing a crackdown on them, but using the police when he's the defund the police guy.
If you've got 250,000 protesters descending,
so you think it could be that? You think it could be that
sure.
many? They're going to come from around the globe. You think?
Sure.
Wow.
It's a tremendous opportunity. And
everybody that George Soros pays is going to be there.
That's right.
But it's going to be left on far left.
Well, true.
They don't.
There's not going to be any right wingers there.
That's right.
That'll be
the Republican convention is
so we
irrelevant
just
to them.
what we do is
we
get
don't
out.
have a dog in that fight.
We just get out the popcorn.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, Chicago in the middle of August. It's going to be blazing hot. And
yes.
Probably. And wow.
They've created it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm not going there.
No.
Huh?
I would not be going there either.
Note to self.
Yeah.
Don't go to Chicago in August.
Man.
Go fishing.
And no one is going to New York.
Have you ever been to Wrigley Field, Ray?
Yes.
I'd love
iconic,
to go.
yeah.
I'd love to go to Wrigley Field for a baseball game sometime. I do want to do that in Chicago. All right, have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
We live in a day when America's families are under attack like never before.
Buddy Smith, Senior Vice President